discuss about media and globalization. So the mass media are today seen as playing key role in enhancing globalization, right? And also facilitating cultural exchange and multiple flows of information and images between countries through international news, broadcast, television programming, new technologies, film, and music. Globalization entails the spread of various cultures. For example, when a film is made in Hollywood, it is shown not only in the United States, right? But also in other countries across the globe. Another thing is, BTS song, right? BTS songs, because BTS is one of the most famous K-pop group in industry. So, even though that some of us don't understand their lyrics, but still many of, especially those fans of BTS, are still listening, even though they don't really understand the lyrics. Also, globalization involves the spread of ideas. Okay, for example, the notion of the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender, or the LGBT communities is spreading across the globe and becoming more widely accepted. Similarly, the conservative Christian church that opposes these rights moves from places like South America to Korea, or even here in the Philippines. People who travel the globe, teaching and preaching their beliefs in universities, churches, public forums, classrooms, or even as guests of a family, play a major role in the spread of culture and ideas. But today, television programs, social media groups, books, movies, magazines, and the like have made it easier for advocates to reach larger audiences. Globalization relies on media as its main conduit for the spread of global culture and ideas. Jacques Ellul was then right to ask, could global trade evolve without a flow of information on markets, prices, commodities, and more? Could empires have stretched across the world without communication throughout their borders? Could religion, music, poetry, film, fiction, cuisine, and fashion developed as they have without the intermingling of media and cultures? So there is an intimate relationship between globalization and media, which must be unraveled to further understand the contemporary world.
Good day, everyone. Before I start my report, may I introduce myself. By the way, my name is Eljin Libahaf from PSES 2B. My report is all about media and its function. Media globalization is a worldwide integration of media through the cross-cultural exchange of ideas. Media is a broad topic which includes radio, television, films, music, internet, and other forms of digital media. Digital media means any communication ideas that operate with the use of any various encoded machine. Examples of digital media are software, digital images, video games, websites, and web pages. Technological globalization refers to the cross-cultural development and exchange of technology. When we say technological globalization, it is the increasing speed of technological diffusions across the global economy. It refers to the spread of technologies around the globe and particularly from developed to developing nations. The example of technological globalization are growth of multinational technology corporations, mobile banking, mechanism of manufacturing, and media globalization. The function of media in globalization. The mass media are seen today as playing a key role of enhancing globalization, facilitating culture exchange and multiple flows of information and image between countries from international news broadcasts, television programming, new technologies in film and music. If before the 1990s mainstream media system in most countries of the world were relatively national in scope, since then most communication media had been increasingly global, extending the reach beyond the nation-state to conquer audiences nationwide. International flows of information had been largely assisted by the development of global capitalism, new technologies, and the increasing commercialization of global television, which has occurred as a consequence of deregulation policies adopted by various countries in Europe and in the US in order to permit cable and satellite channels. According to Thomson 1995, the evolution of technologies capable of transmitting messages via electromagnetic waves that mark a turning point and advancing the globalization of communications. The emergence of international news agencies in the 19th centuries, such as Reuters, paved the way for the beginning of global system codification. Nonetheless, it is not until the 1960s, with the launch of first geostationary communication satellites, that communication by electromagnetic transmissions become fully global, thus making the globalization of communication a distinctive phenomenon of the 20th century. Jack Lowell. He is a professor of global studies and Fukuoka professor of journalism communication at Lehigh University. Jack Lowell describes media as a means of convenience as a channel of communication. The discussion of media and its functions will be continued to report by Mr. Jory James Bunch.
Good day everyone, I am George James Balios and my topic is the continuation about media and its function. Commentators refers media as a technology of mass communication. Mass communication is a process of imparting and exchanging information through mass media to a large segments of population. There are types of media: the print media, broadcast media, and digital media. The print media includes magazines, books, and newspapers. This is one of the oldest and basic forms of mass communication, produced mechanically or electronically using printing. Second one is the broadcast media. It is a traditional forms of media, includes radio, film, and television. The third one is the digital media. It's any media which depends on electronic devices for its creation and distribution. It covers the internet and mobile mass communication. Within the category of internet, there are email, internet sites, social media, and internet-based video and audio. So, what media do and how they affect the societies? Marshall McLuhan, a media theorist, emphasized on how media as a form of technology reshape societies. Like television, it is a simple, basic bearer of message. It also shapes the social behavior of users and reorient family behavior. Like since it was introduced, it separates people or family from dining table where they eat and tell stories to each other, to the living room where they silently munch on their food while watching shows. Television also drawn people away from meaningful activities like playing and reading books. Also, smartphones and cell phones affects the societies. It allows users to keep in touch instantly with multiple people at the same time. And for couples, there is no way for a couple to keep constantly in touch or update each other all the time. McLuhan added, different media simultaneously extend and amputate human senses. New media may expand the reach of communication, but they also dull the user's communicative capacities. According to McLuhan, the question of what new media enhance and what they amputate was not a moral or ethical one. New media are either neither good nor or bad. He only drawing attention of historically and technologically specific attributes of various media. And that
Moving on to the global village and cultural imperialism. So what is global village? It states here that all parts of the world are brought together by the internet. And it also describes the phenomenon of the entire world becoming more interconnected as the result of the propagation of media technologies throughout the world. So this is Canadian media theorist Marshall McLuhan. He coined the term global village in 1964. He was the first person to popularize a revolutionary concept that fundamentally changes how people thought about media, technology, and communications to this day. He used his analysis on technology to examine the impact of electronic media. McLuhan's theory is to describe the phenomenon of the world's culture shrinking and expanding at the same time due to persuasive technological advances that allows sharing of culture. He also declared that television was turning the world into a global village. Events in one part of the world can easily be experienced from other parts of the world, similar to the human experience of a small village living. An example of an event that connected people from all over the world thanks to technology is the Olympic Games, where almost all the people in the world would watch from their television screens. So the scholars after McLuhan grappled with the challenges of global media culture. The assumption was global media had a tendency to homogenize culture. So the media acts as an agent of globalization in generating homogenization by spreading cultural symbols, ideas, and practices across socio-cultural settings of the world. The impact of media is instant. It moves quicker than any material, goods, or people. The argument is as the global media spread, people from all over the world would begin to watch, listen to, and read the same things. This thinking arose at a time when America's power had turned it into the world's cultural heavyweight. So to put it in simple terms, the concept of global village is the idea that people are connected by easy travel, mass media, and electronic communications and have become a single community. An example of the global village is all the combined societies throughout the world. So that is all about the global village.
I'm talking about cultural imperialism. So, cultural imperialism compromises the cultural aspect of imperialism. It refers to the creation and maintenance of unequal relationships between civilization, favoring the more powerful civilization. So, imperialism is a policy of extending a country's power. For example, American values and culture would overwhelm all others. Because the term cultural imperialism refers most broadly to the exercise of domination in cultural relationships, in which the values, practices, and meaning of powerful foreign culture are imposed upon one or more native culture. So Herbert Schiller was a sociologist and author. In 1976, he argued that not only was the world being Americanized, but the This process also led to the spread of American capitalist values like consumerism. So consumerism is an ideology intentionally created by free trade economic system controlled by capitalists. And John Tomlinson, according to him, cultural globalization is simply euphemism or it's too harsh for Western cultural imperialism since it promotes homogenized and westernized and consumer culture.
Good day, I am Stephen Conrad Antonio and I will tackle about critics of cultural imperialism. What is cultural imperialism? Cultural imperialism refers most broadly to the exercise of domination in cultural relationship in which the values, practices, and meanings of powerful foreign culture are imposed upon one or more native cultures. Or other ways to define it is the process of promoting one culture over another. For example, in global communication today, cultural imperialism manifests itself mainly through media, especially mainstream and mass media. Media is one of the most prominent and visible forms of global communication, although cultural imperialism theory also focuses on governmental and economical system. It is more concerned with the assimilation of media like film, television, internet, and music today. Media messages are not just made by producers, they are also consumed by audiences. The television has by far been the most influential consumed media and allowed news to spread on the visual level. It is not totally convicted that the global media will have to homogenize the global culture through cultural imperialism of America because media consumer as active participant of the meaning-making process understand and interpret media messages in varied ways. Example, viewers in the Philippines of the American soap opera were not active enthusiasts when it comes to give process and meaning based on their cultural backgrounds. That is the only way of providing them to understand the show. Another example is when you watch Netflix. The movie, for instance, is in Korea, you will have to watch it with subtitles, so when it we will dub into Philippine adaptation, the emotion and delivery of the movie is different from the original because of cultural differences. That's all. Thank you.
On the critics of cultural imperialism, it has been discussed that the proponents of the idea of cultural imperialism ignored the fact that media messages are not just made by producers. They are also consumed by the audiences. They focus on the message that the producers they forget that those messages is going to interpret and understood by the audiences. The meaning of making audiences is being affected by the other cultural lenses. Therefore, we come up with the analysis that is not outright that global media has tendency to homogenize global cultural through cultural imperialism of America because as global media spread, media consumers as affected participant in the meaning of making process and understand the interpret media in varied ways.
Hello everyone, I am Fernando Z. Cavicas Jr. from BSAS2B and I will be talking about social media and the creation of cyber ghettos. By now, very few media scholars argue that the world is becoming homogeneous, again due to nature of diverse audiences and regional trends in cultural production. Internet, particularly social media, is proving that the globalization of culture and ideas can move in different directions and is challenging previous ideas about media and globalization. It gives ideas, meanings, and values around the world in such as to extend and intensify social relations. It brings increasing interconnectedness among different populations and culture. Western culture remains powerful. Media production, such as internet, is still controlled by a handful of powerful Western corporations. Western cultures tend to have better economies due to having more natural resources and spread their technologies and products to other cultures. Let's go to benefits of social media. The form of communication brought about by social media has already democratized access by allowing anyone to use social media for free as long as there is an electronic devices such as smartphone and internet connection. It means that everybody has access to data and there are no gatekeepers that creates a bottleneck at the gateway to the data. It also enabled consumers and producers to use social media to access information. It was most evident in 2011 during the wave of uprisings known as Arab Springs when activists opposing authoritarian regimes in Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya used Twitter to recognize and to disseminate information that toppled their respective governments. In Arab Spring, social media played a significant role facilitating communication and interaction among participants of political protests. Protesters used social media to organize demonstrations, both pro and anti-governmental, disseminate information about their activities and raise local and global awareness on ongoing events. Also, a tweet from Hawaii lawyer became national and global movement against the newly elected US President Donald Trump of what they called Women's March. Social media allowed them to share their thoughts, their disappointments, their desire for action, and their voices with the world. And that's the end of my part.
Pleasant day to everyone. My name is Leah Cabral. Now let's move on to the next topic, negative effects of social media dark side. In 2000s, commentators began referring emergence of the splinternet. Splinternet, also referred to as cyber balkanization or internet balkanization, which means is a characterization of the internet as splintering and dividing due to various factors such as technology, commerce, politics, nationalism, religion, and divergent national interest. Phenomenon of cyber balkanization refer to the various bubbles people place themselves in when they are online that resulted to segmentation of people whether in a country or worldwide. It means that when people have opposite perspective on the same scenario or topic in regions where people have similar viewpoints or the same subject as well as hostility to opposing viewpoints, it results in cyber balkanization which fragment the internet. One reason for the creation of such a term is the increasing of number people gaining access to social media networks or the internet. Facebook resembles living an echo chamber reinforces one's existing belief to opinions without being exposed to contradicting posts that challenge their viewpoints, resulting to bipartisan and close-minded. Echo chamber is when one experiences a bias, tailored media experience that eliminates opposing viewpoints and differing choices due to social algorithms that ensure we only see media that fits our preferences. We have found ourselves in a comfortable, self-confirming feed. By participating in an echo chamber, people are able to seek out information that reinforces their existing views without encountering and opposing views, potentially resulting in an unintended exercise is confirmation bias. Echo chambers may have social and political polarization and extremism. U.S. Democratic Party liberal website, Republican Party conservative website. In the United States, votes of the Democratic Party largely read liberal website, and voters of the Republican Party largely read conservative website. It is exploited by politicians with less democratic intentions and demagogues wanting to whip up popular anger. Demagogues means a leader who makes use of popular prejudices and false claims and promises in order to gain power. Social media is used as a tool by government in advancing their propaganda and clamp down on dissent and legitimize critical media. For instance, the government used Facebook to advocate and manifest their actions, just like when they generalize misunderstanding and nullifies the misinformation. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin has hired armies of social media trolls to manipulate public opinion through intimidation and the spreading of fake news. Fake information can also spread easily on social media since they have few content filters since Facebook, for example, has a team of professional editors to filter information.
Hello everyone, I am Gerson Embael from BSES 2B and I will discuss about the social media and the creation of cyber tools. Analysis. The dark side of social media shows that even a seemingly open and democratic media may be co-opted towards undemocratic means. As a consumers of media, users must remain vigilant and learn how to distinguish fact from falsehood in a global media landscape that allows politicians to peddle what President Trump's senior advisor now called alternative facts. People must be able to tell the difference. Conclusion. This lesson showed that different media diverse effects on globalization processes. At one point, it seemed that global television was creating a global monoculture. Now, it seems more likely that a social media will splinter cultures and ideas into bubbles of people who do not interact. Societies can never be completely prepared for the rapid change in the system of communication. Social media and the creation of cyber ghettos. Every technological change, after all, creates multiple unintended consequences. Consumers and users of media will have a hard time turning back the clock. People may individually try to keep out of Facebook or Twitter. For example, this media will continue to provoke change instead of fearing this change or entering a state of moral panic. Everyone must collectively discover ways of dealing with them responsibly and ethically. That's all. Thank you.